was headed for a supercomputer complex off in the Lop Nor kind of neighborhood.
The Cauldron.
That's what they were calling their project. Yeah. That was its label for itself. Yeah.
Project Cauldron. That's kind of neat.
I mean, it's kind of like picture Clif being out there as running an army of Google spiders, right?
Sure.
And then spidering a Yahoo spider and going, holy smokes, what was that?
I got it. Okay.
Very much that same kind of thing, exactly, yeah.
All right.
It was interesting to discover that the Chinese were looking at language in an emotional fashion, as we were as well. And some of the things that I'd already discovered suggested to me that they were taking a slightly different approach, but that indeed it was forecasting as well. It wasn't merely trying to hunt down secrets. It wasn't a cyber attack or any of that sort of thing.
They were also doing much bigger snippets. Clif software is doing like 2048 bytes. And as I recall, the Chinese project was doing, give us a megabyte or so of the thing. And so they were looking at a much more scaled-up version of this type technology.
Probably using one of the IBM supercomputers that the Clintons sent over to China.
It was big. I wouldn't doubt it a bit. I mean, they had no limitations on bandwidth or anything.
For those of you who remember that story, Chinese, of course, promised that the computers would never be used for anything military and would just be used for educational purposes. That's what they said, see. The Clintons.
And I'm sure
remember
they're
the Clintons?
Themselves, yes.
And then the Loral satellite debacle, and we could go on. We've given them so much, it's a joke. That's how they were able to jump 40 years in 10 or less by America's largesse and corporate greed and sell out at some of the highest levels in this country. And that goes back to the Clinton years, folks. All right. This is a fascinating field. What are the practical applications for it, and who are some of your users? George, go first.
The practical application, at least theoretically, might be, say you wanted to do investing. If you had a sense that the world was quickly running out of grain and there was a developing fear and a shift toward events in the future that went to the idea of encounters with scarcity, restrictions on travel, that kind of thing.
Gosh, strange you would say things like that.
Yeah. Well, so if you see all that stuff coming maybe a year or two in advance.
Hey, how about now?
Yeah, then too.
Yeah.
You might be able to make a specific kind of an investment in maybe, a commodity, for example.
Such as wheat, which doubled in February. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it hasn't been bad this week.
No, it hasn't.
So you could apply the technology to investing. You could also apply it to policy making, but one of the big moral dilemmas we've kicked around ad nauseum is who can you trust with this stuff? And we don't trust ourselves with it. So, I mean, seriously, Jeff, if you could get even a halfway decent bead on the future, can you think of any elected official that you would trust to act in the public interest, need, and necessity? I mean, even when things like the FCC are set up with the best of intentions, look what they've done.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Everywhere you look now, public officials seem to be standing knee-deep in debris, shall we say.
Exactly, and that's one of the core moral dilemmas with the technology. I mean, if we saw something coming, we've kind of got some friends and connections and stuff. We'd try to say, here's what's coming, and we'd put it on my website, and Clif would talk about it. But if there was really something big coming, who would you trust to do it? I mean, would you trust FEMA?
I won't even answer that.
You see the weight of the problem?
Of course. But
it can also be used to do things like predict weather.
And I can make the humble offer of being at your service anytime you might wish the forum. I've got a pretty good monthly total of hits, so if you need it, it's here. Back in just a couple minutes as we continue our conversation. HalfPastHuman.com. Hi, we're back with George and Clif. HalfPastHuman.com. Can we look in the future by scanning the Internet for changes in language and words, verbiage, text, prose? Apparently, yes. Is it a big surprise to a lot of you? If you've been listening for a long time to this program, I should think not. It's quite encouraging, though, to know that these two gentlemen have pioneered something which is quite clearly an indication that we are a lot more connected to a far deeper level than most people will care to entertain. It's a remarkable thing that they've done. All right, the Chinese are looking into this. It is your position, at least up front, that the Black Ops boys here weren't interested. Do you think that they are perhaps working on this on the QT and would rather not tell you guys about it?
Oh, I'm certain that they wouldn't tell us anything.
There's nothing, I'm being semi-facetious, there's nothing that you do that they don't know about.
That's probably quite true, yes.
And there are a lot of them listening tonight to see what you have to say about all this. Now... Well,
I don't know about that, but...
I do. We know who visits the website, and we got a pretty good idea.
Oh, yeah. Right.
It's who's who of who's who. So I'm interested in your products. I go to the website halfpasthuman.com. I sign up. What do I get? I get a newsletter. I get the potential to get the reading program. What else? What is there?
What we offer is a report based on our processing of the data off the Internet. And we offer these reports about 6 times a year in what we call runs of a limited duration. It usually takes about 2 months to deliver about 6 articles, if you will. These run about 8 to 10, 12 pages for each article.
And you write them up?
Sketch out the future in a sort of a entertainment fashion, broad view of what trends are developing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for instance, we might say that, spring. We deal in lunar months, and because humans actually tend to think in lunar months, whether we express it that way or not, we also have a tendency to think in seasons, so we have a lot of stuff around the equinox, solstice, and so on. So we can say, for instance, right now, that there will be a whole lot of very happy silver owners between spring and summer, and that many of them will experience the word double 3 times.
Wow.
And this will make them very happy indeed.
And how about oil? Are we seeing anything oily in the
We've got
triple digits
coming by our estimation. I have to understand that what we did was we applied emotional parameters to words that were pretty much arbitrary guess. Mm-hmm. We refined them over time, but they're still crude at best. So what we do
that was a good pun. I like that.
Yes. and so what we do is we say that when things appear within our model space around a particular date, we might assign a date, but it's not all that accurate in terms of a precise kind of a measure. But usually we're within 2 or 3 or 4 days, or if it's long-range data, we might be a month off.
That's
we'll
close
let you know
enough.
what the range of error is likely to be. But somewhere around July 5th or so, we might be seeing $150 a barrel of oil.
All right. I was going to say we're in triple figures now, and do you see double? I've been saying, I'm not the only one. A lot of people have been saying 150. Some are saying 200, but certainly 150 seems to be on the table.
Right. Well, one of the things that's been going on in model space for a long time, a couple of years, is the whole notion of death of the dollar and how that takes place. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't know, that the dollar has been seriously hollowed out. But in 1913, when the not federal no reserves was set up, the dollar would buy $1's worth of goods. Today, it will buy about what would be the 1913 equivalent of less than 5 cents worth.
Less than a nickel.
And as the dollar value continues to decline, it appears to those of us who just consume goods that the price of things is going up. Mm-hmm. So in other words, while model space might suggest $150 oil, it's not clear whether that comes from a drop in supply or whether it's because we've printed up so many dollars that people in other parts of the world are wising up to the fact, gee, I better take more of these because they're buying less.
Hundreds of billions are being printed up, or, well, they're being keyed up, of course, on the computer. They don't even bother printing them. And our friends and neighbors abroad who are sitting on piles of this ever-diminishing paper are going to go, and are going, on an enormous shopping spree in these formerly United States to pick up bargain after bargain after bargain. I mean, it's crazy. I'm not talking about shoppers in New York malls. I'm talking about there are going to be some major acquisitions here. Quietly.
Yeah, Canadians just bought out my energy company not 4 months ago.
Oh, there you go. Oil is 109.73 now, and quite clearly going up a lot higher. We're looking.
But of course, in defense of our software, it is practical to use it a non-monetary fashion. I mean, there's money involved because there's money involved with everything. But just as an instance, and I mean, I hate to give personal details and stuff, but I've got about 300 or 400 gallons of diesel fuel. I bought it 89 cents a gallon. So, I mean, if you read the reports and you happen to look at the world with a particular view, which I'm sure your listeners would find compatible, then you end up getting a little bit more detailed view as to how things may lay out. Now, let me be really clear about this, though. We charge a huge amount of money for people to get in and read the first report. We do this because we deliberately want to get people not to subscribe, because there probably is very little in here for most people that would benefit them for the cost involved. And anything that we know publicly that might be impacting, such as when we get a prediction of an earthquake, we release that for free on George's urban survival site. We don't charge for those kind of things on a karmic kind of a level.
Well, let me know, and I'll link to it.
Okay.
Oh, certainly. No question about it. And
go ahead, Clif.
Okay, and I was going to say, what we want to do is we wanted to have a high enough barrier to entry that the currency that we're charging happens to just be basic pocket lint for you, so you don't even think about the $240 for the first subscription. There are indeed people that are into the trading and commodities and all this kind of stuff and have made money off of these reports, and to them it is pocket lint, and that's basically what supports us. But what I do in terms of what we look for may not necessarily always suit everybody. So, for instance, we don't give predictions on which stocks to buy, that kind of thing. But we'll let you know, for instance, that, I think, a year ago, George, I started nattering on about wheat.
Yes, and it's been a fine, fine year.
So you guys got into it.
I don't trade, no, sir.
Clif doesn't invest.
I'm
but you do.
Before, I don't care about that.
But George does.
Maybe.
George is the money man. I got it. All right.
Well, and you have to remember, if Clif were to invest, it would bias his analysis.